He's on a roll, ladies and gentlemen. The man is rolling. He's the Attorney General of the Show Me State, Eric Schmitt, running for Senate, by the way, as a Republican in the primary. And Attorney General Schmitt, congratulations again on another victory. A federal judge in Louisiana temporarily blocking the Biden administration from ending the Trump-era pandemic restriction known as Title 42. Big day.
Yeah, it was a big day, and I think it's a big day for the rule of law and for border security. Missouri, along with Arizona and Louisiana, led this fight and got that decision yesterday. It's an order that blocks them from moving forward with that. We'll continue to fight them in court on it, but it's an important victory. And I think what you see from this administration is just a level of lawlessness that we've not seen before. The cartels are running the show at the border. We're seeing fentanyl in our communities. We're seeing human trafficking increase. It's a total disaster. And if he gets his way with Title 42 being terminated, I mean, you'll see a tsunami of illegal immigration. It accounts right now, Chris, for about 50% of the expulsions. So just double the number that we know of coming across, right? That would be 18,000 people a day coming here legally. It'd be a mess.
Mr. Attorney General, what do you know about the relocation of a lot of these migrants? We have heard and seen stories of buses and planes being flown domestically throughout the continental United States after they've arrived illegally at our southern border. What do you know about the placement there? Is it strategic? Is it random? Are we looking into that, or do we know?
Very secretive. You see some of the activity in places like New York and New Jersey and midnight flights and those sorts of things. But I think, again, it's part of this agenda that I'm sure your listeners understand. We've not seen this before from a president of the United States, right, which is actively trying to open up our border. You heard Elizabeth Warren say the quiet part out loud this weekend when she said, well, now that they're here, we ought to just give them all amnesty. The lieutenant governor of Texas was on a show prior to me who estimated, if you kind of extrapolate the numbers, if Biden's successful on the Remain in Mexico, we were at the Supreme Court today on that case, but on the Title 42, it could be 30 million people here illegally, okay, in that 4 years. That's like another Texas. That's 5 Missouris. And so they're fundamentally trying to change this country forever. The dream of open borders and amnesty that was, the left and rhetoric just a few years ago is now a reality. So it's up to the states to push back. And that's what we're doing. And, today I just stepped out and we were at the Supreme Court. I'm here in D.C. on the Remain in Mexico policy. So if you include Title 42, Remain in Mexico, and then we've got a lawsuit with Texas to actually have Biden spend the money that's been appropriated to complete President Trump's border wall, those 3 things are part of what made President Trump so successful in securing the border. And this administration, Joe Biden, systematically tried to undo all of them.
Mr. Attorney General, I have to say you are really, you seem to be amassing a bit of a winning streak here. I mean, you didn't, sadly, no one was successful. Multiple states joined, but you helped lead the charge back when we were talking about election integrity right after the 2020 election. Mm-hmm. While the Supreme Court ultimately didn't take that up, I think you were still on the winning side of history there. You continue to challenge the federal government at every turn. And I think a lot of people wouldn't necessarily assume that the Attorney General of Missouri's a place to look to see someone combating the federal government, but you keep doing that. I mean, you obviously think this is important, keeping the federal government in check. You've done it time and time again. COVID regulations and rules, the border, election integrity. You seem really passionate about it.
Well, look, as somebody who believes in this country, to me, it's an effort to save America. The states created the federal government. And this is what's so frustrating is you see all these woke folks who want to, indoctrinate our kids to despise America. If we actually taught civics in the founding of this country and what a beautiful experiment it is, we would know that our founders meant to spread out power, right? That's why we have the separation of powers, to spread out that no one branch or agency or person ever got too powerful. The states created the federal government, a government to be of limited powers. The states all had to agree on what those were. I mean, this is what the Constitutional Convention was all about. And if we believe that that's the bedrock for the rule of law like I do, if we believe that that is the structural protections for people to pursue their dreams, to live out this mission statement of the Declaration of Independence, where we're all born with certain rights and government's just our shared product to protect those rights, it is up to the states to push back, to hold the federal government in line and say, you're not in charge of doing this. OSHA, you're not in charge. You make sure forklifts beep when they back up, okay? But you're not in charge of making sure 100 million Americans, forcing them to have a medical procedure. And so that's why it's so important. The states don't stand up. Nobody will. I'm proud that Missouri's leading that fight. That's a very important part of our history. We celebrated our bicentennial just last year. Missourians have always been skeptical of these folks in Washington, D.C. who think they've got all the solutions, hundreds and hundreds of miles away. And so I'm going to do my job as Attorney General. That's what I was elected to do. And by the way, one of the reasons why I'm running for the United States Senate, I think the next 10 years are going to be so consequential in determining whether or not we're going to remain the freest country in the history of the world, or we'll be just like everybody else or worse.
I know you are busy. You're at the Supreme Court. You have not seen this story, I'm sure, yet, nor do you know the details, so maybe you're loath to comment. But the Daily Mail has dropped a bombshell today on Joe Biden, revealing an email from Hunter Biden's assistant claiming that the president paid his legal bills, paid Hunter Biden's legal bills for one of his deals with China. The report also reveals that the president had millions in unexplained income. Now, I know you haven't seen the particulars. Frankly, neither have I. This is just a breaking story today. What do you make of the president's finances, his son's finances, the laptop that we know full well? Does that cause you, from a legal perspective, to raise an eyebrow or two?
I do, and I think that there ought to be a special prosecutor appointed at this point. I think it's serious enough that this was something that Joe Biden ducked and dodged with the help of the mainstream media, the corporate media during the campaign trail. He hid in the basement. The laptop from hell was exposed. The New York Post was deplatformed. It was a very concerted effort to make sure this information never got out. Now we're finding out more about it, and it's worse than I think people thought, or as bad as people thought. And I just think it compromises this president. I think that there ought to be a special prosecutor named, and there ought to be some independent investigation. This is serious stuff. This is about, potentially selling access to the highest office in the land, or one of the two highest offices in the land, because of his son's business deals. I mean, can you imagine if President Trump were in office right now and something like this were revealed about, people would be losing their minds. You would see riots on the street. So I think actually maybe doing a little investigating and some journalism is maybe called for at this point.
Mr. Attorney General, we'll let it stay there for now. If people want to reach out, follow along, what's the best way to stay in touch with you and your office?
Yeah, they can go to the official office at ago.mo.gov. We've got that great student portal there, Student First portal, where people can submit all this woke stuff that's in their school district. It's pretty remarkable. We try to remain in contact there. And then, of course, I'm on the Twitter machine, Eric_Schmitt, and on the Facebooks, too. So, yeah, we love hearing from folks and really encourage that kind of outreach because at the end of the day, I'm the lawyer for all 6 million Missourians. It's a great honor to serve in that capacity. And that, by the way, was also brought home today as I'm, in the highest court of the land. I didn't know any lawyers growing up. First in my family to be a lawyer. So to be arguing on behalf and submitting these cases on behalf of the state that I love as a sixth-generation Missourian is a humbling experience, and I take it seriously.
They're getting very familiar with you around the Supreme Court on behalf of Americans everywhere, not just Missourians. Mr. Attorney General, thanks for your time. Also running for Senate in the Republican primary here in Missouri. Thanks for your time today, sir.
Thanks, Chris. Bye-bye.